You're listening to the I'm Busy Being Awesome podcast with Paula Engebretson, episode number 267. Hey, everybody. Welcome back
I'm Paula
to the
Engebretson.
podcast.
I'm a life
Today,
coach,
we are diving
and
into
productivity fanatic.
an
I
incredibly
created
common,
this podcast to
but
help busy
often
people like you
overlooked
make structure in
topic
the
when it
chaos
comes to
and
those of us
reclaim
with
your time.
ADHD.
So if you're ready
And
to
this
stop
is
procrastinating
decision
your to-do
making.
list, get focused,
So whether
and
it
make
is
things happen,
choosing what
then
to
you,
wear in the
my
morning
friend, are
or
in the right
deciding
place.
on the
Let's dive
perfect
in.
toaster or choosing the ideal restaurant for dinner, these seemingly simple decisions can become quickly overwhelming for our brain and, frankly, super exhausting. Now, if you're like most ADHD brains, you might find yourself stuck in what I call the decision spin cycle. So it is this experience of decision paralysis, and it often results in this frustrating loop where you find yourself weighing all of the options, analyzing every single detail, reading all of the reviews, and still struggling to make the choice when the time comes. And again, this can be especially draining for the ADHD brain, which is already working overtime to try and manage that flood of overstimulation that's constantly coming in. Now, why? Why does this happen? Why is it so hard for us to make these seemingly everyday choices? Why does it seem so daunting? Well, as ADHDers, our brains are wired to really absorb everything. It's called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, but it's not a deficit of attention. We have a surplus of attention. We are paying attention to every detail, every possibility, every outcome. And that, no surprise, can make decision making feel like an uphill battle at times. Because we have this difficulty in filtering out the relevant information that we really want to use to help us make the choice. And instead, we're trying to process all of this data all at once, most of which doesn't actually matter to the thing we're trying to do. And so it keeps us in this spin. And the reason why we're talking about this today is actually I just got off a call with a client, and this was the topic. Okay, we were talking about this spin, and they were navigating the indecision that comes with trying to find a hair salon or trying to find a new dentist or what have you. And we get stuck in these little decisions where we have a lot of different options and the brain can't choose. So let's talk about how we can know whether we're in this decision paralysis. How do we know if we're stuck in it? I tend to think about 3 key signs that we can watch out for. So sign number 1 will look like some flavor of procrastination. So maybe you keep putting off making the decision. You're telling yourself you need more information, that you'll decide later. So maybe you've been meaning to schedule a long vacation or a long weekend away or something, okay? But every time you start thinking about it, your brain goes, oh, but I need to ask for time off. And you start worrying about asking for that time off and then maybe getting behind at work. And before you know it, weeks have passed, months have passed, and you still haven't scheduled that long weekend away. Or maybe you've been thinking about organizing your office, and then front-end perfectionism comes in because we're constantly searching for the quote-unquote perfect filing system or organization system. And so each time you get started, you feel super overwhelmed because your brain thinks you haven't found the perfect choice yet or the perfect way to organize. And then the brain goes, oh, let's tackle it another day. So that might be sign number 1, is this experience of procrastination in some way. The second sign that you might be in this decision paralysis is over-researching. So you're diving deep into all the details. You're spending hours reading the reviews and comparing options and looking at all of the different specs and not really making the progress, not really making the decision to take the next step. So maybe you're trying to buy a new laptop, or maybe you have a kid who's going to college and they need a new computer or something. So you start checking for reviews online and you're comparing the specs and you're watching YouTube videos and you're reading the user comments, and your brain just gets flooded. Again, we're flooded with too much information and we go into overwhelm, and we're no closer to making a decision than when we started, because now we didn't even realize we needed to be thinking about the RAM and the CPUs and all of these different things. So sometimes we get into this research rabbit hole. We're over-researching, overlooking, overing that's keeping us from taking that next step. Maybe you are researching something like a air fryer or a toaster. Maybe the toaster broke and you find yourself again down that rabbit hole looking at all the different reviews, trying to find the quote unquote best or most optimal decision. This is one that can be really sneaky too, is the brain's like, but is this the optimal one? Am I making sure that this is the most efficient, optimal, effective thing that's going to check all of the boxes? Oh my gosh, that can be so alluring. And so we try and search for the most optimal option, the most optimal decision, and then again, we freeze up. So sign number one, we're in procrastination. Sign number two, we are over-researching, over-optimizing. Sign number three is usually some flavor of frustration or anxiety. So the longer we tend to stay in that spin cycle, the more frustrated, more anxious we tend to get. And that, because we're getting dysregulated, makes it even harder to choose. So I don't know, imagine you're trying to choose a paint color for your living room. And so you're torn between these different shades. And the more you think about it, the more stressed you feel because you're thinking, oh, it's going to take so much effort. And then once I do it, if I have to change it, that's going to be a whole thing. And eventually this decision feels so big, so intense that you are tempted just to leave what's on the walls because that all just feels way easier than having to make the choice and then potentially beat yourself up for choosing the quote unquote wrong decision on the other side. Now, if you have a brain like mine, I'm guessing you probably find yourself in at least one of these scenarios every once in a while. So what can we do here? How can we help ourselves when we're in situations like this, when there's not a lot of emotional weight or significance around it? Maybe there is around painting walls or something, but stuff that just doesn't feel too heavy. We're not asking you to make a decision about selling your house or quitting your job. It's about what hair salon or what do you want to have for dinner or do you want to buy this toaster or that one? What can we do to help ourselves get out of that spin and take the next step? So when I was talking with my client, we played around with the idea of identifying our top 3 clarifiers, or essentially creating our decision filters. So I don't know about you, but when I am shopping online, having the option of filters is the best thing ever because it helps reduce the overwhelm from all of the different options. If I am looking for a certain type of notebook or journal or pen, I can filter by the type. I want it to be spiral bound. I want it to be college ruled. I want it to have a hard cover, not a soft cover. And when I can start filtering, that allows me to look through only the options that fully meet my requirements. And that is so much easier on my brain. And what we can do ourselves is create those decision filters for anything that we're trying to choose. So for example, let's think about picking that hair salon, okay? So you might ask yourself, okay, I need some decision filters. What are the 3 things that matter most to me about finding this salon? Now, the reason why I just emphasized for me is because that answer is going to be different for everybody. That's why we can't just have a one size fits all of this is how you choose a hair salon in this situation, okay? What we have instead is a framework. We have a prescriptive way to determine what 3 things matter the most to you to make the decision. Because one person might decide that they need to find a stylist or a salon who has specific experience with doing a certain type of hair. Maybe I wanted to color my hair bright pink or something. I would want to find someone who has expertise in doing brightly colored hair, going from dark brown to bright pink. Actually, that's what I had to do when I went into purple. I had to find someone who knew how to do, I think they called them fantasy colors or something. I had to find someone who specialized in that. That was a criteria for me. So on the other hand, someone else might not want their hair purple or pink. And so they might have different qualifiers. They want someone who is available. That might be a first qualifier, or the proximity, how close they are. Okay, so how quickly can you get me in? How close are you? Those might be the top two qualifiers. So when you're thinking about making your decisions, ask yourself, what are the top 2 or 3 decision filters that I want to use to help me make this choice? So if we stick with that hair salon example, maybe your top 3 priorities are ease of booking, availability, and proximity. And so maybe you're debating between 10 searches that showed up on Google Maps when you typed in salons near me. And then after you chose those 3 filters of ease of booking, availability, and proximity, you're down to maybe 2 or 3. And then from there, you can look at reviews online or something. So we've sorted out all of the noise and you're down to only the ones that entirely meet what matters most to you. Another example might be deciding where to go to dinner. Okay, let's say that you find yourself getting a bit overwhelmed by the sheer number of choices, of restaurants, of options. And again, this is where decision filters can really help. So I'll give you an example for Ryan and I. Ryan and I both have weird food allergies. I can't have any dairy. He has a bunch of other things. So these allergies are just kind of built-in decision filters for us. You know, does it have dairy-free options? Does it have Ryan's food things? And do they take reservations? And are they open right now? It might just be 2 filters. It might be 3. But by applying these filters, we narrow down our options pretty quickly, which helps us reduce the spin and make that faster decision, which is always a win when we're deciding on food because I get hangry. Okay, let's look at a few more examples. Where else could we apply these decision filters? Maybe you do it for travel plans. So I'm sure I've talked about this a handful of times on the podcast, but I have a hard time with making travel plans. My brain hates it. I have a whole bunch of thoughts about it. And so this is where I tend to use decision filters a lot. So if I'm choosing flights, for example, when it comes to booking flights, I look at the endless options on all of the different search engines and my brain wants to melt. And I start searching by flights, and then I'm buried under all the different airlines and prices and departure times and schedules. And I am just in deep decision paralysis in minutes. And I want to close my laptop and tell myself I'll do it later. This is such a familiar pattern for me with anything related to travel. It's ridiculous. And so I have really streamlined the process after reflecting on it for a bit to recognize what matters the most to me when I'm flying. So to help myself with this, I've really streamlined the process by getting clear on my top 3 decision filters for choosing a flight. Let's not choose a fight. For choosing a flight. So when we think about flight decision filters, maybe you consider the convenience. Actually, my top 2 reasons are built around convenience. So first of all, nonstop. I much prefer a nonstop flight to a flight with stops. And in fact, I prefer it so much that even if a ticket is really expensive, I would prefer to wait and save for that ticket and fly direct than have to fly with stops because my brain hates it that much. Okay, so for me, that is a very high priority. I realize that is not the same for everyone. People are like, Paula, what's the big deal? It's like an hour. It's not a problem. Take the layover. No, my brain hates that. I would rather wait. Okay, because that to me is friction. That's how important nonstop is. And it's helpful for me to know that about myself because that way I'm not spinning and flipping back and forth in between flights that have some sort of layover if I'm trying to go somewhere that could potentially offer a direct flight. Similarly, my second clarifier is under convenience, and that is mid-morning flights, if possible. So I prefer a mid-morning flight because I know my brain gets stuck in waiting mode all day long. If I have a late afternoon or evening flight, I'm just in waiting mode all day, waiting until it's time for me to leave. And I'm just puttering around, packing, unpacking, wondering what I'm missing, and it's really an uncomfortable space. So I much prefer to schedule a mid-morning flight. So when I can filter my results by nonstop and mid-morning, are you kidding? That's amazing. There's like usually one or two options. And then third is date. Okay, so that's my third filter. Unless for some reason there's a very specific date I need to travel, if I'm going to a specific event or something, I will happily be more flexible with my dates if I can get a nonstop morning or mid-morning flight. Now, again, that's very personal. Many people are like, I can't believe that's what you use to decide your flights, but it is, okay? Other people, it might be a preference on airline or loyalty points or something. I don't fly enough for that to make a difference at all. But for some people, that might be. So again, you get to play around with your qualifiers. The important thing is knowing your filters. When you know those filters for yourself, you immediately give yourself such a gift of reducing the number of flights, the number of options, which makes it so much easier to find the ones that fit your criteria and are most supportive for you in this season. And again, a reminder that these filters can differ not only between different people, but also for you at different situations and different seasons of life. So if you have kids, for example, your top decision during the school year might be the dates because you need to choose your vacation according to when it's school vacation. But during the summer, your top decision filter might be something different. So by identifying and applying your decision filters, whether it's choosing a toaster or booking a flight or picking a restaurant, having 2 or 3 decision filters at the ready can help you significantly cut down on the overwhelm, move out of that decision paralysis, and make your choices more quickly with confidence. So the key is to get clear on what matters most to you in each situation, and then let those answers guide your decisions. And I invite you to put this into practice this week. Notice where you might feel a little bit stuck in a smaller area. Where are you spinning in a bit of indecision? Start by identifying those areas, capturing those moments when you find yourself in decision paralysis, when you're in that spin cycle. Once you've recognized those moments, you can then ask yourself, what are the 2 or 3 things that matter most to me about this decision? What are the non-negotiables? What do I want those decision filters to be for this situation? And then once you've identified those filters, you can apply them. I'm telling you, it has such a powerful impact in reducing the level of demand on our brains, and it can significantly reduce the time that we spend in that spin. When we can remove all the extras, we are just left with a handful of options, all of which meet our criteria, which makes making that confident decision so much easier. So give it a try this week. Start with one small thing. It might be deciding what to wear tomorrow. Okay, think about your filters. Maybe they're that you want the outfit to be comfortable and appropriate for whatever occasion you're going to and suitable for the warm weather or something. Then you can apply those filters and quickly eliminate anything that doesn't fit, and you're probably left with maybe 2 or 3 options. Or deciding what to make for lunch. Maybe your filters are that the meal needs to be ready in less than 10 minutes and it has at least 25 grams of protein, and that you want to use up the red peppers that have maybe a day left in the fridge. When you apply those filters, you can quickly eliminate the different options that don't, again, meet that criteria. And then you have just a few things to consider. Or planning what you want to do this weekend. Maybe you have filters that the activity should be relaxing, that it's within driving distance of 15, 20 minutes, and that it's outside. Okay? By applying these criteria, you can simplify your choices. You can make your decisions on how you want to spend your time, how you want to show up, and it makes everything a little bit easier for your brain. So I invite you to try this on this week. Notice how it goes. Notice when you're in the spin cycle, and then identify your decision filters. No more than 3. Use them to help you narrow down your options and make that confident choice. And of course, I would love to hear how it goes. You can let me know over on Instagram. I am at I'm Busy Being Awesome. You can leave a comment on the post or drop me a DM. I can't wait to connect with you. All right, my friends, That's going to do it for us this week. And if you know someone who also gets stuck in decision paralysis and they love a little bit of support in making confident decisions by choosing their decision filters, would you be a rock star and share this episode with them? You could send it to them in a text message or snap a screenshot and share it on your Instagram stories. And be sure to tag me so I can give you a shout out. Whatever you do, please know that I so appreciate your support in getting these tools to even more busy, awesome brains who need them. Also, have you grabbed my free training called the ADHD Routine Revamp? It's designed to help you lock in a routine and make it stick. If you haven't taken it yet, you can head to I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/routine and sign up. Until next time, keep being awesome. I'll talk with you soon.